Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming back. Today we're going to do Ken Shoulders number 18. And we have Mary who's going to read the Ken Shoulders part. And then after that, we have Lacey that's going to read a little bit more. So thank you, Mary.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Disruptor by Ken Shoulders, 2006. The present governing method for humanity is based on control of citizens by force. The main source of this force stems from the use of stored chemical energy and is usually employed in the form of explosives used in firearms and bombs. In addition to the actual use of force, modern government uses electromagnetic communications extensively to help direct the application of this force. In the past, less intense form of force was used as knives, spears, and arrows, applied with far less benefit from extensive communication. With the advent of a slight addition to EVO, exotic vacuum object technology, the basis of which can be reviewed at the website, a form of miniature disruptor device capable of both initiation of munitions and destruction of electronic communication and control devices becomes available. Such an event would seriously undermine the capability of governments to control their populace by the form of force presently used. The use of force to forbid the manufacture and distribution of disruptors is a logical first step for governments to take, but one without long-term effectiveness due to the simplicity of creating the dis- distributing disruptors. The utility of EVO technology for accomplishing the disruption claimed here is based on the ability to sequester charge to such an incredibly high degree that the cluster so formed easily traverses ordinary material with very low interaction. It thus becomes a projectile having an enormous energy density that can be triggered almost at will by setting the original launch state of excitation, whereby any added excitation will affect its disruption and subsequent energy release within the target. If this energy release is caused to occur after passing through an ammunition shell casing, which adds excitation, an explosion of the entire round will occur with a possibility of this first explosion spreading to other nearby rounds. Under such conditions, it would not be advisable to have a loaded weapon anywhere nearby. The overall statement here is that the bearer of arms carries his own destructive force that can be triggered by a minuscule amount of well-placed energy. In a similar scenario, an electronic control or communication device, being in the environmentally sensitive things that they are, cannot endure even one such strike of energy without losing the function of a large portion of the nearby nano devices. The author has long been immersed in this scenario, but is still unable to perceive an outcome free of social commotion for a considerable period of time. Trying to bury the subject just by just not thinking about it is not likely to work. Any constructive input from others would be appreciated.
So this is really interesting because yesterday Lacey and I did an interview with Chris Beskar, and he basically told us that they have laser weapons on a lot of the military aircraft. And I think maybe that this refers to some of it as the disruptor.
Cool.
So interesting thing. Yeah.
Electric Gun Effects by Ken Shoulders, 2006. This note covers the natural progression of the EVO gun as a device for the reduction of standard weapon effectiveness by exploding their ammunition and destruction of electronic controls to the next expected stage of being an EVO gun as a replacement weapon used against humans. The sequence from ballistic projectile to electric projectile seems to fit into the natural scheme of things. There will be many frustrating attempts at removing this new gun from the reach of individuals, and these will certainly be practiced with regularity. But in the end, still unforeseen forces will bring us to the ultimate conclusion as it severely upsets the balance acquired thus far in our slow process of becoming civilized. The weapon characteristics. One of the first things seen with this class of device is that there is no need for large, cumbersome weapons as its range is practically unlimited and the total energy deposited is set almost entirely by how long the weapon remains active. Wow. By using a small energy per shot and many shots, plenty of destruction can be accomplished. This is also the easiest thing to do at this time, thus making this method most likely to first occur. It is expected that the weapon size would vary from that of a cigarette lighter upward to that of a small flashlight. With no noise generated at the source and having an effective electromagnetic shield, the gun is virtually undetectable while launching projectile after projectile at a rate thousands per second, capable of passing through any known material. It operates with an easily adjusted penetration depth, dumping its energy into the form of an internally generated spark. It can be operated innocuously from behind walls, and there's no good detection method for the projectiles known other than the possible indication of a small spark-like vector streak resulting from a poorly assigned penetration depth. Some small sparks in the air nearby would surely indicate an attack is in progress. When assessing the damage produced from such a weapon, it is informative to compare the number of watt seconds required for emplacement damage to the watt seconds available from an ordinary battery used to supply power to the very efficient EVO gun or projector. Considering that most of the target material is active biologically, very few picowatt seconds of proper emplacements are required to disrupt many pounds of material. A delayed indication of the target being struck is likely to cause overexposure with near certain death. All this must also be considered in the light of how easy it is to set a totally undetectable trap as a form of advanced non-explosive landmine. The effects expected. Penetration of metal would give similar action to that found in the Hutchinson effect, where a form of charge-driven internal pressure gives rise to distortion and disruption. The action on biological targets is likely to homogenize tissue in the strike region. This disruption would be similar to the disruption seen in EVO boring through materials where non-thermal effects predominate, giving rise to atomic dishevelment of biological material. The spark-like explosion occurs inside the target whereby there is no equivalent mechanism known for causing this total decomposition of matter. In some respects, this is equivalent to radiation damage, but on a much larger scale per particle or projectile. Damage accumulation in humans is likely to first produce a slight sting, depending on the area hit, followed by disorientation and then sickness with increased dosage. A single shot to the head would certainly give permanent memory damage, extending to a volume of thousands of cubic microns of material. From here on, maybe this is the doomsday weapon forecast for so long as it is clear that this type of weapon would be as vile and despicable as anything ever conceived. Unfortunately, it seems inevitable in its arrival due to its overwhelmingly simplicity of manufacture and application. I am presently torn between the alternatives of implementing an insipid form of personal survival plan by dispersal of information or just quietly going away and letting someone else introduce the technology. I see no clear way out of this dilemma except to leave our present biological format for another one that is more sophisticated and durable. The only simple hope I can see is in making simple laws and agreements between individuals and small groups as we have in our distant past, instead of attempting to implement those laws more recently used and intended for regulating the masses. It is very hard to obtain and ensure agreements in large groups. With this, we can have the small group on small group problems all over again.
Wow,
Oh.
that's something, hey. Um,
Hmm.
I guess we have to understand that EVOs can be used for good and for bad, essentially. So that's kind of the lesson here. And like I said, Chris Beskar talked about laser weapons. So I don't think these are laser weapons per se, but he could have been referring to something like this as well, too.
Hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
I think we have Lacey who's going to read a couple more things.
Yeah. This is the Turing wave. The Turing wave is a dodecahedron standing wave pattern that inverts on itself and vibrates between space-time, where it's 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time, and time-space, 3 dimensions of time and 1 dimension of space. Everything in our universe emanates from a single point, which is the Turing wave. Ed Kubersky.
Cool. And then we have, this is Paul Laviolette's actual description of an etheron, and it's really, really cool.
The subatomic particles and photons which make up our physical universe are themselves modulations of the ether substrate, i.e., wave patterns made up etheron concentrations and vortical etheric fluxes within particles cores that give them the property of spin. So if we regard etherons as consciousness entities, for physical form and subquantum kinetics is merely a manifestation of epiphenom.
Epiphenomic or phenomena, I think epiphenomena.
Thank you. Generated continually by ether flux. Sorry. Paul LaViolette, epiphenomenon, a secondary effect or byproduct that arises from but does not causally influence a process.
Yeah, so interesting. The etheron, if we regard etherons as conscious entities, this is Lacey talked about etherons last time with the Ryan Wood had sent the UFO AI, and basically it says the same thing essentially. And what she has next to talk about is I sent in some questions before she did, and she's just going to read some of it because it talks about some of the technology that Chris Beskar and Pete Peterson designed at Area 51 together. So I think, maybe you should
did
go
you have
to
the question?
Yeah, the questions at the last one. Yeah, thank you. The last sheet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the question was, what can you tell me about the Hawk hybrid aerospace undersea craft? What can you tell me about Stavati Aerospace? What can you tell me about Chris Beskar? And the response was, the hybrid aerospace undersea craft, or HAWC, is a concept developed by Dr. Salvador Cesar Paez, a scientist working with the U.S. Navy. The HAWC is designed to operate seamlessly across different environments, underwater, in the air, or even in space. This innovative craft leverages advanced propulsion systems based on gravitational wave and quantum vacuum principles, which are intended to create a low pressure zone or vacuum around the craft using electromagnetic waves. The Hawk's unique design incorporates a resonant cavity structure that utilizes electromagnetic waves generated by microwave emitters within the craft. This creates an accelerated mode of vibration and generates a local polarized vacuumetric field outside the outer wall of the resonant cavity, which is crucial for its multifunctional capabilities. The Hawk's propulsion mechanism is based on two key principles: gravitational wave effects and quantum vacuum energy manipulation. Gravitational waves are ripples in spacetime caused by massive objects, while quantum vacuum refers to the lowest possible energy state that a quantum mechanical physical system can have. By combining these concepts, the Hawk would be able to harness and amplify the propulsion effects of both gravitational waves and quantum vacuum fluctuations. This results in an advanced craft with enhanced underwater speeds due to reduced water hole surface friction, as well as aerial/underwater stealth capabilities achieved through nonlinear scintillation, the scattering or bending of electromagnetic waves, and the manipulation of radar and sonar signals. Stavati Aerospace is an aerospace company known for its innovative approach to aircraft design and development. The company focuses on creating advanced aerospace vehicles with cutting-edge technologies, including stealth capabilities and unique propulsion systems. Stavati has been involved in various projects, including the development of the F-26 Stalma, a single-engine, single-seat aircraft with advanced stealth features. The company emphasizes the use of advanced materials and design techniques to achieve superior performance and reduced radar cross-section, RCS, in its aircraft. Christopher R. Beskar is the chairman and CEO of Savati Aerospace. He has been instrumental in leading the company's efforts to develop advanced aerospace technologies and innovative aircraft designs. Beskar's work at Savati has focused on integrating advanced stealth technologies such as the cold plasma cavity active stealth technology, COPCAST, into the company's aircraft designs. This technology involves the use of plasma fields within the aircraft structure to reduce radar detectability and enhance stealth capabilities. Beskar's leadership has positioned Savati Aerospace as a key player in the development of next-generation aerospace vehicles with advanced capabilities for both military and civilian applications. In summary, the Hawk represents a groundbreaking approach to spacecraft design by leveraging resonant cavity principles, electromagnetic wave generation, and quantum vacuum effects. Savati Aerospace, under the leadership of Chris Beskar, is at the forefront of developing advanced aerospace technologies, including stealth capabilities and innovative propulsion systems to create cutting-edge aircraft for various applications.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Lacey. And yeah, what an awesome description. This AI that Ryan Wood has is amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, does anybody have any comments or?
Yeah, I had sent Ryan Wood a question just recently, the one that I'd run through Grok. The
Okay.
answer came out virtually identical, so I'm pretty sure he's using Grok.
Yeah, well, I think he's using all of the documents that him and his father gathered up over all the years and then authenticated because they were the world leading document authenticators, and he actually did the burn memo. I don't know if you guys know about that, but there was a CIA memo that got thrown in because they burn all their stuff in these burn bags, and somebody grabbed it and pulled it out, so it's burned around the edges, and it basically is the kill order for JFK essentially. And it was Ryan and his father who actually authenticated that, and then Dr. Sala wrote a book about it. So it's kind of interesting stuff. Yeah.
Could you put the Turing wave description from La Violette back up real quick?
Yeah.
There's something that caught my eye, Lacey, and I wanted to.
The Turing wave one was actually mine.
It is, yes. Turing
Yeah.
wave is a dodecahedron standing wave pattern that inverts on itself and vibrates between space-time, 3 dimensions of space, and 1 dimension of time. In the time-space, 3 dimensions of time and 1 dimension of space. Everything in the universe emanates from a single point, which is the Turing wave. Dodecahedron. You realize that is kind of systemic to our DNA also. I've heard Dan Winter talk about our DNA being a ratcheted dodecahedron, twisted, obviously.
Absolutely.
But a unique sacred geometry, right?
Yeah,
right down to the bases. Yeah.
Here it is right here. Yeah, exactly. And you're exactly right. The other thing, too, that's interesting is we know that source is at the 13th density. So that basically makes our universe 12. And so the Turing wave is I've always said that the Turing wave was the frequency of source pulsing, essentially, recreating the universe with every blink, essentially. So yeah, no, that's really cool that Dan Winter has the same ideas.
Yeah, I think that was original on his part too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's even more cool.
I don't think he scraped it from anybody. I think it's original work on his part.
Yeah, and I mean this that I wrote, this is just stuff that intuitively came to me, working through all the years of doing things, in this group and in Dave's group as well, Dave Rossi's group. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, systemic to everything.
Yeah, it's the basic building blocks of the universe, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everything.
What creates the resonance, how it creates a path for time, 3-dimensional time, spatial resonance and a path for 3-dimensional time are coupled. And so the whole thing is working in the background right on top of the SQK.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really interesting too is the electronics at Montauk, like I'm a bit of an expert on them, and the receiver that Tesla designed himself had 6 channels, and they were used to find the coordinates in both space-time and time-space, essentially. So, and along with a bunch of other things too, right? But that was sort of how they could make sure that they knew where everybody was or everything was, essentially,
Yes.
with these 6 channels, right? So yeah, 3 were used on one side, 3 were used on the other side, essentially. Yeah, very interesting stuff.
I know I bring up Walter Russell every time, but he talked about all this. I mean, this is Atomic Suicide. This is one book where he talks about it in detail. He hints at it in some of his other writing, but he said the exact same thing. This energy, it's directed energy weapons. I mean, it's another name you hear a lot about. I
Yeah,
mean, Tesla spoke about this.
yeah,
He knew how it worked. Walter Russell and Tesla, they were friends back in the day, and
yeah,
certainly would have conversed about some of this stuff. But he basically said in the future, the nature of any of our weapons. I mean, they'll be quite a bit simpler, but anyone can defend themselves at any given time if you use it properly. And the shoulder stuff talked exactly about that. Like
yeah,
super small. He's talking about something the size
yeah,
of a lighter, and if you really did come around and you had any kind of ammunition or anything like that, it would actually you know trigger it would blow up before you even came close. So I mean,
yeah,
the defense systems of the future, like everything else, are going to just be very elegant and simple. And what it comes out to be is you don't really need weapons when everything is that well defended.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's a
so
great point, Michael, for sure.
mhm.
Yeah, and you're right about Walter Russell. I encourage everyone to study Walter Russell's work. Yeah, definitely. Well, awesome. That's cool. Well, maybe we can end the recording, Lacey, and then we can talk a little bit more about stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Lacey and Mary, for reading.
Yeah. Thank you.